I'm Derek Axten from Minton, Saskatchewan, which is, I guess, just 12 miles north of the U.S. border, straight north of Plentywood, Montana. And I'm here today to talk about our operation. I guess we're going to talk a lot about, a lot of people know us, I guess, because of our diversity. We grow a lot of crops. We grow usually between 10 and 15 crops here, but one of the unique things that we do is we grow all of our broadleaf crops as intercrops. So we don't grow any of our legumes by themselves. So we grow like flax and lentils, chickpeas and lentils, mustard and forage peas. Those are some of the things we do. But that's really just a piece of the puzzle. That's some of the diversity we add. What else do we do? We're working hard to restore our soil food web, I guess, by using compost and compost extracts. That's one of the other things we do. Well, hello. My name is Derek Axten, and I am addicted to soil health principles and implementing them on my farm. And you're going to see this through what's going to be a bit of a tour of our farm. So they say that public speaking is one of the most terrifying things that people can do. Well, they are right. It's funny. I don't know why I struggle with this so much because, you put me in front of a crowd this big and I really struggle to for words to come out sometimes, but give me 3 beer and 5 guys around the table and I can't shut up. I'm just going to, I guess, give you a little bit of background, a couple things I really wanted to talk about here. I might not ever have this opportunity again. There was 3 real pivotal things that happened in my career, and 2 of those were being on 2 farms. The first one was in the fall of 2006. We wound up at Gettysburg, South Dakota, buying a John Deere disc drill for all the wrong reasons. It was mostly just, we thought it would be something that would follow the soil better. It was, we'd maybe lose less moisture, and that's about where it ended. So we're making the deal with the salesman, and he says, well, if you're here to buy a drill, you must be going to see Dr. Beck. Dr. Who? Right? And didn't know. And he goes on to tell us about the history behind the Dakota Lakes Research Farm. So I go home and get on the Tandy, right, or I guess whatever it would have been then, and looked up Dr. Beck, sent him an email, I believe, and the next summer we were on his farm for his farm tour. First place, we get in the electric golf cart and we drive out, and he's telling us about diversity, and my brain's already full, but we pull up beside the irrigator. He asks us, how much rain do you think that's putting on? We all guess ½ inch, we don't know. 2 inches in 9 minutes. There was the 3 of us that came from Saskatchewan. Our heads turned around like owls and looked at each other. Like, if that happened in Minton at that day, it'd be running down the ditch. We know. We could never infiltrate water like that. There's no way. So that was, and I've been back to Dr. Beck's multiple times, and I guess because I'm a slow learner, and it's been huge, for him to go out and take the time to spend with us, and it's really, really changed how we thought. And the other event that happened was, I don't remember the year, but we were down on our way to Beck's, actually, for a tour, and we found this Burleigh County Grazing Day thing. So, right now, this was maybe 2012, that ballpark. So we stopped and we did the Grazing Day thing. It was interesting, but we were all grain farmers, and there was nothing about grain farming. So we're standing in line waiting for a hot dog, and we were chit-chatting amongst ourselves, and I finally said, I was trying to get the notice of the people ahead of me. Do you guys know anybody grain farming doing these things? Get a tap on the shoulder. I'm Gabe Brown. Awesome. So I at the same time, I had just heard about him. We didn't know anything. He invites us to his ranch. We continue on to Beck's, come back, heads full. And Gabe took the time that day, and it was just unbelievable to walk out and look at his soils, put the shovel in the ground, and to look at what he did, and then walk across the grid road to the flax wheat field, and put the shovel in the ground there, and that was Minton. By this time we thought we were being diverse, and we thought we were no-tilling, we thought we were doing all these things, but obviously we weren't getting there, because the proof is in the shovel. And there was something about that trip that just made us, we decided from that point forward, we have to make substantial changes. And, it was, I'm not sure else how to put it, but that was the day that we really, really changed our direction. And anyway, I guess for that, gentlemen, I think you're both in the room. I really thank you. So I don't know if I've ever had the opportunity, but it's been really impressive. So with that, I was watching the other presentations yesterday, and I thought, I don't have any of these really impressive charts and data and points and these sort of things. So I went back and looked in my data and pulled something out because I really wanted something you guys could sink your teeth into, and this is about all I got. So, third thing that happened, I know this is a lot of background information, but people ask, how did you wind up farming so weird? And there's a whole strange string of events that happened, and the next one was, I don't even know what year it was, 14 maybe? I get a phone call from Neil Paulgard, a friend from Canada. I don't think he made it down today, but did you know that Gabe Brown and Jay Fuhr and Elaine Ingham are all speaking in Montana? And I can't remember, Forsyth? Yeah, sure, let's go. Didn't know it existed. So without that phone call, we go blown away. One more piece of the puzzle. Had no idea, the soil biology thing. We talk about biology. We know it's great. We want more, we think. We don't know. You can't see it. So, and it was, and I poorly attended is the wrong word, but there was lots of time to spend with the speakers, maybe 200 people. And I'm sure Elaine was sick of me by the time it was over, but went home so excited. My wife is, she's a farm girl from the next town over. We went to high school together. She became a high school biology teacher, settled, and then married me. And unfortunately for her, I guess, but she had this degree, and she's living on a farm. The only school that she could teach at, there's already the positions filled, so she's helping on the farm. But she's still, I know she still really enjoyed teaching and learning, and so when this came up, this was right up her alley. She jumped in with both feet, did the courses online, did well. Elaine invited her down to the Celebration Farm, I guess it's called, to do the hands-on. It was super. And then we had compost on the roll, and she went in and did its hands-on right before seeding, and it was, and it's funny because, we think we're doing things, so remember to never forget the very first sample we looked at. She comes home, and we look in the microscope, and you're so excited, and it was terrible. Because you think we're doing intercrops and we're doing all these things, but there's bacteria, right? You had to look a long time to find something other than bacteria. So that was disappointing. But it gave us a starting point, and that's one more thing that's helped us. It's hard to manage what you don't measure. So it's really helped us. The other thing we did is there's been lots of talk of mycorrhizal fungi, and we are by no means experts. One of the experts is in the room, and we traveled to Ohio to David Brandt's farm and spent 3 days there with Dr. Wendy Tahiri, which I'm sure I'm butchering her name, but very, very good information. We were able to look at every sample. I don't know if there's anybody from the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. We sent roots down from our farm, from every crop we grew to David's ahead of time, and so we could look at them, and we had colonization in everything. So that was a relief, I guess, in a way. Interesting thing from that, there was 15 or 17 of us. Ray was there. I don't know if anybody else in the room was at that thing, but there was 15 of us. 5 of the NRCS people who brought corn and beans to that had none. 0. That was interesting. Anyway, so it is something good that we can measure. Since then, we've looked at all of the crops we've grown, and yeah, we're getting good colonization. Some are better than others, but it's been a really good tool to use. I guess you guys have seen this up here many times, but it's something I'd like to always include because it really has become our goals. You know, the loyal to the soil, my wife and daughter come up with that, but you know, as corny and rhymey as it is, we really think about what is going to be the effect on the biology or on the soil in general with every single operation we make. Every time we go to the field, you know, are we winning or losing? So, and these have become, you know, goals and things that we like physically, literally do talk about when we're making decisions as far as cropping rotations or inputs or things we're going to try to use or what the next step is. And for me, I don't really have an order. I just had to put numbers beside them, I guess. So, but yeah, they are very important, and we found that they were starting to fit really well. So I guess we'll kind of get into the meat of it. I'm just basically going to give you guys sort of a virtual tour of our farm north of Minton. And when I was putting this together, I was thinking about, I actually had this slide different, you know, and I used to have live roots as one of the outliers, but really, when I thought about it, it's the focus, right? And everything we do around our system is about the live roots and maintaining that live roots and about the environment. So with that. Oh, that's definitely the wrong way. Oh, and the soil food web. Something else, I don't always see it in presentations. I guess the thing I was gonna highlight is when we first found, all we were seeing was bacteria. You know, so we had no web, we had no cycling. We were still, you know, using full amounts of synthetic fertility. And it was actually a really good bait point, because when we realized we had nothing other than bacteria, you know, when we started to pull back inputs and then we started to see the web expand, you know, it was good to know we were going the right direction. So this is just a random, I had to pick a picture. One of the ones from today, that's a bacterial feeding nematode, right, full of bacteria. I wish I could have video because the protozoa are going everywhere, and they're fun to watch. But this is just a slide from today's, it's a typical soil slide from our farm. So I guess I'm gonna start at the beginning as far as the field operations. We use low disturbance disc openers. We like to see lots of residue. You know, this is pretty basic stuff, but I thought it was just something I could show. I have probably owned nearly every single disc drill on the market today since we started this game, and we basically wound up back at the John Deere for lots of reasons. But they're all good and bad. I don't really actually have a preference. For us, that's what we wound up with. It's a piece of our puzzle, controlled traffic farming, but that's really all I think of it is. It's more of a means to an end. It allows us to do things that I never thought possible. It opens doors that I didn't know were there. And it's given us a whole bunch of opportunity to try new and, you know, innovative things that I didn't even think about until we start running on these trams and always going in the same place and you know, allowing us to do inter-row seeding. So, I mean, there's your background on it. And also the other thought of it too was we're platy, and I know it's probably still lack of carbon, but we just thought if we can get off of it, and it took us about 4 or 5 years to sort of get things on. It doesn't have to be an all in or all out. We started off, you know, slowly, and now most of our stuff lines up. We're on a 9-meter system just because our hills. We tried a 12-meter system actually, and it didn't work out so well. Plus, residue distribution is so huge. I don't know if you can, like, really. I think you have to lie to yourself if you think you can spread residue 12 meters year in, year out in the wind. Some of those doors. I've been wanting to relay seed cover crops since, I don't know, maybe the first time I talked to Dr. Beck. We know we need to have cover crops. We know we need to maintain that root. And our problem is with our short growing season is that we don't always get enough time at the end. So why not establish them sooner? And this has been sort of our result. These are early attempts. What seems to happen with us is we tried to go into our wheat when it was small enough that the wheel tracks didn't make a mess, but the wheat canopies, no light, didn't work. I don't know what year it was. The relay seeding crazy year, where everybody was relay seeding. And the John Coote stuff was on Twitter. I gotta do something, right? So this is rye established, and I don't grow soybeans, right, because it doesn't rain in Minton. So we had lentils in the drill, and It was across the road, and they were moving. I was like, hey, phone them. Hey, turn around, go back there. So we relayed lentils into this rye, and actually the lentils, of all the interseeding we've done on narrow rows, the lentils did not bad. They didn't amount to any harvestable grain, but they did put up with the lack of space and lack of light. So this is another example of some of the things we've tried. Faba beans, we established alfalfa in the spring of 16. This is the fall, this is the drill following the combine. We're picking up faba bean swaths, established alfalfa, because Beck's alfalfa in the corn thing, which is super awesome. So, well, I gotta do something. So this is alfalfa, and this is rye established in the alfalfa rows in the fall of 16. Then in good mitten fashion, it didn't rain or snow much, but the rye did establish. This is 35 millimeters of rain, and we combined 25 bushels of rye, which while it was competing with alfalfas. The alfalfa did maintain, and that's the field J that we pulled. And then it went to flax and chickpeas this year, and we still maintain the alfalfa, but I'm going to terminate it now because we're trying to figure out how we can put these perennial sequences into our grain farm. And it's been one option, but it's been a struggle. We did flax and chickpeas into the rows of alfalfa this year. The chickpeas didn't love it, but the flax was insane. Dad phones, they moved the combines, I didn't know, I hadn't been looking at it. He phoned and said, what in the explicit word did you do here? He said, the flax is 3.5 feet tall and chickpeas are awful. He said, they're having a hell of a time. So we were going 5 miles an hour, so then they're going 2, so combine pilots were upset. But it was interesting to see how that interaction worked, and the flax loved the alfalfa. But that's, I guess, how we're learning. So relay seeding, right? I want to do it so bad. The narrow rows isn't working. There's a bunch of other things I've been wanting to try. So through the last 3 years, this thing's been going around in my head. And I don't know what else to call it because it's a mess. But it's a 15-inch space, 3-point-inch bar, John Deere corn planter row units, because I want to make this relay thing work. You know, I was down to Lawrence Field Day, and Bob Recker, the light guy, he had the pictures, the drone pictures from above showing how there's light penetration in a little bit wider rows. So I was like, wow, we'll go to a little bit wider rows, find out how bad our yield penalty is going to be, because it'll be something, right? Because wider rows doesn't yield as well. And figure out from there. Make companions work, we'll get it figured out. Okay, so a whole bunch of unexpected side effects happened. So this is seeded same day, side by side, same field, same rotation, same everything. Little bit lower seeding rate on Frankenplanter there, but this is day 1. Or whatever, day 5 actually. Same thing. This is stuff I did not expect to see. And that's why I thought it was worth sharing, so here we are. Never in my life have I seen an earthworm in a seed trench that early on. I don't know why. It's just we don't even see the earthworms that much, but we're finding them in the seed trench, not in the 1890. But behind this other thing, I don't know. I wish I knew. So, proceed with interseeding. I have no idea. We're in uncharted territory. I don't know seeding dates. I don't know, species. So we just tried a whole bunch of everything. And so we had different seeding dates. I started going every week. We went this day. Crop keeps getting bigger, trying to figure out how the species are going to work. What we did learn so far is that sugar beets do not withstand. We were hoping sugar beets would work because we're trying to get brassicas out of our cover crops. And it gives us sort of the same effect, plus it's another plant family. But sugar beets will not withstand the shade. They all died. But other things were coming along, so we keep going later and later. The crop keeps getting bigger because we're trying to find the best time to do this. Learn something from the experience. And we finally, the last seeding date was August the 3rd. Somewhere in early July, once again, the tap got turned off, and I was starting to stress. But the crop still was holding on not bad. And we were getting pretty good, we were getting some stuff growing. So to qualify, I have terrible residue cover here in this picture with my John Deere pliers. We were very, very dry in 17, like brutal dry. And we lost, our residue burned up, like it just disappeared. So that was part of this project was, let's get a live root, cover the soil. We know we can't do it in 1 year, but let's Let's see if we can make this work. So this is what we were seeing. So things are going not too bad. Maybe I got this figured out. It's growing. Here we are. This is working. Yeah, this. So, yeah. Remember I said it quit raining? It quit raining, and the furnace turned on. So we've got 40 degrees Celsius. I'm not sure how that translates, 100 and a lot, and wind, and it's bad. Oh, sorry. Oh, there we go. And like literally when that was going on, this was going around in my head the same. But we learned something. Once again, this is the line. So this looks terrible, right? It's burning up like it's over. But this is behind our yard. And driving down the highway, you can see this green block standing out. And if there's anybody in the room that can offer, I talked to Beck this morning a little bit, the John Deere row unit. There's maybe a few things, but we do deliver our liquid starter, which is a lot of compost extract and some other biological foods. And with the planter row unit, it puts it below the seed. Maybe that's it, not sure, but it was significant. So we went into this thing thinking we're gonna have less, but we can make our relay seed work. But what we got was the opposite, and we got 15% more yield and significantly more biomass on our wide rows. So I thought it was just something worth sharing. And then they always say you got to have some of your failures. We have lots. I picked this one. They're there, but they're not dead, but they want to die. So part of the other reason we went to 15-inch and not a twin row situation is I love these heads. They're as big of a part of our operation as the drills. And I phoned Daniel there at Shelbourne and said, Daniel, do you have anybody that's actually stripping 15-inch? Is that a thing? Like, do people do that? He said, well, actually, we got 2 guys down here near Colby that are using planters to seed their wheat. They're doing 15-inch wheat. Like, oh, okay, good, I'm doing that. He said, that's it, but wider than that, they've tried twin row, they've tried other things. You know, you just get too much head loss. So, stripper headers. When we went to Backs that first year, we had seeded already with our 1895. We had 9,600 combines and 36-foot Macdons, because that's what you do if you're Canadian, right? And spread 12 feet or whatever. They're brutal. Disc drills and brutal chopping is not a good combination. So I didn't know anything about blue headers, so I go back and we're having our tour and talking, and Dad is, because he's whatever. Somebody has to be devil's advocate, right? What are we going to do about this hairpinning? This is a problem. Yeah, blue headers. So, same thing, get on the internet. There's one at Rollo, which blew my mind, which is like a half an hour for me. Guy doesn't use it anymore, bought that. The other one's in Kansas. Go down and get them, and it's been life-changing. For us in such an arid environment, we have the opportunity to harvest snow with these, because all my neighbors, they're all sickle cut, lay them on the ground, cut it, whatever, And we've got strip stubble, and the wind blows, and it can come from the neighbors and land on ours. It works great. And the other thing that, the first year, same thing, once again, I don't know, Axten's bought them weird headers, and their snow was full, all that snow in that stubble, they're not going to seed till June. It's the first thing we seeded that year. The stubble sticks out of the snow and attracts the heat, I guess, or how that works, and it melts down and it's even. So it melts faster, plus, in our hills, right, they've got these ones, the wind blows, and we get these bare hilltops and these gigantic snowbanks on side hills, So that takes forever for these snowbanks to melt. This way, we've got this nice coating of snow across the whole field, melts, goes in the ground, and away we go. I just don't understand why people that have disc drills don't have these headers. Less fuel consumption, significantly less fuel consumption, faster. The combine guys have to gauge their speed by how fast the grain cart can keep up, because there literally comes a point where they just can't. So we have to pull back no, really, really good. I highly recommend them. So they always wanted me to talk about diversity. We grow way too many crops. We grow 10 to 15 crops, definitely too much. I don't recommend it. Most of it is exploratory, and we're gonna start paring it back. As you can see, we grow, and yeah, like we're doing stupid things like growing 3 kinds of durum. That's a terrible idea. And we have become seed growers, so that's part of why this is. So we're pedigree seed growers as well, just because we like complication in our life. And yeah, I just wanted some pictures to show you what things look like. And yeah, and then this year, so we did slow it down, but we got to get down to like 6 or 7, I think. And I think we can do that because there's definitely some winners in there. Some things that were new was spelt this year. Love spelt. I'm going to figure out how to sell it, but it's really, really a nice plant. I hear lots of people want to hear about this, intercrops. Also happened as an absolute accident. 2009, we seeded lentils into some mustard stubble. And for whatever reason, we had a herbicide hiccup, and we had lentils and mustard came back. It's by the highway. It's driving Dad insane. Looks like a mess. But I'm like, you know, it's not that bad, right? We're out looking. Let's leave it. So we left it. Straight cut them. And like we had mustard and lentils, and like, this isn't all that bad. So borrowed a rotary cleaner from a guy, and cleaned it out, and we got a Super B load of mustard off this 600-acre field. So it actually wasn't great as far as, but mustard was worth good money that year. Then I started doing research, and well, there's people, this is a thing, right? Guys are doing this. So Colin Rosengren, and I, phoned him, nervous, oh God, more nervous than I am now, I think. And talked to Colin, and yeah, he's been great. And so we kind of back and forth and gave me some great ideas. And then I found Lana at Redverse for the flax and chickpeas later on. So we kind of got this little network, and now we intercrop all of our broadleaf acres. And a big thing that hit me about this was back one of the trips to Beck's. He's telling me about how the lentils and the carbon and you're losing. So we got to quit growing legumes by themselves. This works so well. We get way better residue. Now instead of by freeze up having all of our legume fields are black, right? I don't know if you guys grow lentils or peas, but it looks good for a little bit, and then all of a sudden it's gone. And it's impossible to maintain surface residue. So when we started introducing these other plants, changes the carbon-nitrogen ratio, works really, really well. Once again, this is just a list of things since 2011. We're basically, here we go. This is flax and faba beans, something new this year. Faba beans don't like the desert at Minton, but same thing. I love the plant, love what it does, love the roots, but we just can't get yield. We thought we'd put flax in. We thought it would help the pollination because the flax starts flowering sooner. Well, they're about the same time, but we thought it would help. But alas, when it doesn't rain, flax or faba beans just don't perform. So I'll just hit the highlights. Flax and chickpeas is the home run. Late 90s, early 2000s, we were growing chickpeas until we finally ran out of seed. It's an old winter wheat joke Dr. Beck told me. And it really, truly did happen. Like, we got diseased out. It was a train wreck. Went to Lana's in 2014. She's growing flax and chickpeas in Redverse. You don't grow chickpeas in Redverse, right? Like, that's wet. You don't grow chickpeas over there. And she's doing it successfully with very little fungicide. Okay, I'm doing that. So we came home in the spring of 15, maybe 14, anyway. Rigged up our drill, and let's try 1,500 acres. Yeah. So we did. And it was great, What else do I got? Oh, so yeah, this is, if any chickpea growers in the house, there's flowers on here, and usually there's cornflakes on the ground by now because the leaves are falling off because the ascochyta is coming alive, and there's nothing. There isn't a lesion, a spot. Like, this works. This is magic. So what we have found, though, is the desis are working better for us than cabulis. We've still been doing a little bit of fungicide with our cabulis, which I hate, so I'm done. I'm no more cabulis. I keep trying it, thinking I've got a long enough rotation or I've tweaked little things. Nah. So no fungicides for me, so we're done. And so this is kind of what a desi golden flax sample looks like in the grain hopper. So it isn't nearly as hard to thresh or do it as people think. It's actually quite easy. The chickpeas do all the work. Something else. I have the attention span of a squirrel sometimes, so I forgot to mention that we haven't used insecticides or seed treatments for 6 years now, 7 years, and haven't seen the need. I meant to mention that earlier on, but except the seed treatment, the fungicide seed treatment on the kabuli chickpeas. The Desis we can do bare, no problem, but Kabulis, well, I'm just not gonna grow them. If I have to use fungicide, I don't need it that bad. This is the other winter, and this was just like dumb luck. We had been growing our lentils with mustard, but the brassica thing, I think we have to limit our brassica use, so I'm trying to pull back on the brassicas. I wasn't super happy with the residue, and I felt like the cover of the mustard was over the lentils was costing us yield. So we started experimenting with flax. But the big problem I thought with flax was gonna be senescence. Huge differences in maturity. But let's try it. So we did, I think, 450 acres the first year. And lo and behold, like things progressed. The lentils started to get that color on the hilltops. 2 days later, the flax did. Stopped flowering and came in. It was a bit of a dry year, so I thought it might have been a one-off. Did it again this year. Same thing. Timing maturity was phenomenal. The lentils trellised up. I don't know if this picture really shows it, but the lentils are up to the top of the flax. Like they were knee-high. Like they changed their architecture. We get longer internodal length. It's phenomenal. Combined beautifully. It was we had angry rain, I guess, early on in the year. And like my neighbors, I know they're not here, so I can use this picture. Large green lentils, heavy rains early on, laid them flat. Phenomyces come in, or we had Phenomyces, I guess, there. And then once they're flat, then white mold moves in. So they're flat, and the low spots where the bushels are were nothing. And he told me the yield was low teens. We're open that way. I was curious more than anything because it looked worse than that. I would have guessed less. Good guys. So they've asked me about what we're doing with the flax because they drive by it on the way to do this. What are you doing? So there's been some real interesting thoughts about, I do this and separate, but they're going to maybe do a low rate of flax and then just blow it out the back, right? Use a combine to separate. Instant cover crop possibly, however you want to do it. And it's easier rotationally for us, but it gives us absolutely gorgeous cover. So I did have a video, but I just changed it to this just to show, because Veronica, our intern from Germany, she would just cook like literally as fast as the grain carts could keep up, because it would cut so nice. Because the lentils are standing up, they feed in great, and we're getting really, really nice residue out of this flax. Flax on its own can be kind of a jerk, as far as residue goes. I think everybody can probably agree if you're trying to chop it, but this low inclusion rate in the lentils works very, very well. So where are we at? Oh, mustard and forage peas. Early on, when we did canola and peas, it was, we were just trying to get our feet wet. And I soon realized there's no sense growing a well-standing pea, right? Because, I don't want to compete in that market. So we started growing these specialty peas that lay down, that they're a nightmare to harvest on their own. But we put them in something to trellis. Now all of a sudden, that's not a problem. So we grow forage peas, winter peas, maples, some of these smaller laying down nightmare peas, but they do great in this environment. So this is just a picture from this year. Just kind of wanted to show they really, really tried to lay down on me. I actually was losing sleep over this because we had desiccated them and we got some rain and they were thinking about hitting the dirt, but we were able to get under them. They were only off the ground about this far, but the mustard was enough to hold it up. And I know there's a little bit of school of thought that the root exudates of the mustard help with the Phenomyces. And we haven't seen any Phenomyces on our farm. It is like literally across the fence around me, and we're not exactly sure. We've got some samples out to a root, I don't know what you'd call her, but pathologist, I guess. And hopefully we get some results back on that. But we are not seeing Phenomyces, any results of it. And we're not sure if it's diversity or exactly what, but that's what we're seeing. Quick slide on how we harvest. We strip as much as we can. It's not every year. I got to be a little more pragmatic about it, I guess, is maybe a way to put it. We used to just strip blindly, regardless, but some things we have terrible yield. We have header loss if the things are too short. But just kind of wanted to show you what the difference is. I still love this. This is so much better than this. And we use large wire concaves. I've tried every specialty concave under the sun. When it comes down to it, we went back to John Deere large wire, and we run one small wire, two large. That's what we do all year. Don't have to switch concaves. We just have to take them out to clean them when we're doing seed switches. But as far as switching to do crops, works really well. This has become a real centerpiece of our farm. Hooked on the old Mac is our Mobile grain cleaner. We started off doing quick cleans and rotary screens and those different things, and they all work. And on small scale, I think they're fine and a good place to get your feet wet. They're cheap. But for us, we just wanted to do more. We intercrop, well, all of our broadleaf acres, and we have for quite a few years now. So it's, upwards of half of our farm goes through. So it has to go through this. And then with seed production, we needed a cleaner anyway. So this is what we've got. And it's just simple. It's an indents and an air separator. On the top, instead of indents, a big air screen, and then a gravity table. We run it through harvest, so that's why we got this drive over deck. The truck comes in, dumps, and we have a guy who watches this and moves trucks around and dumps, and it's a real circus. So what we're doing next is we're going to, well, right now, they're putting up a building. We're building a facility, a fairly large commercial facility for our own use. And what's happened is, like I said, there's doors starting to open that I didn't know. And the seed thing is becoming a bigger part of our farm. So we decided, well, if we're going to clean it and separate it, why don't we just grow stuff that people want for seed? So now that's forage peas, buckwheat, some of these things. We have to run it through anyway, so it works really well. And we're able to separate and clean at a capacity that keeps up with the combines and do a good enough job that when it comes out of the gravity table, it's export clean. Oh, this is an example of. That's what, I picked the bad one intentionally so you can kind of see what this looks like. So this is flax and lentils, and they were running their, whatever. We got too many sticks, but it's hard to, anyway, so this is what it looks like in the hopper. This is what the flax looks like when we're done. This is good enough to go to town, but definitely, obviously not seed, right? Lentils are good to go, and not that much damage. There's a chip, there's one wrinkly one, but other than that, they're pretty good. So these are seed quality. And the new thing we started doing is this. This is our refuse. This is a portion that we used to pay somebody to haul to town because we couldn't get it out of the system. So we did a little tweaking on the cleaner, and we can get our refuse out now. This year we collected nearly 300 tons of refuse, which normally would go to town that we can keep on our own farm. And it turns into this big pile of mess, but it goes into our compost. Works really, really well. Yeah, I guess I got a slide. Another door that I didn't know, networking and meeting people and doing these events, and I see you grow forage beets, so phone call, and here we are. Just another enterprise. Works really, really well. It's a load of stuff going to Southern Ontario, and yeah, it makes it a little more fun, I guess, and helps us get a little more value out of our product. I get a lot of questions about fertility, and I really don't know how to handle this one. We're using a lot less than we used to. This fella here over on the right, Mr. Joel Williams, has been a big part of that. We hear a lot about cutting back, but I have no idea. And I think I can get there. And Joel's been a huge help. He's got a really good grasp of fertility and biology and how they help each other, and things we can use. So anyway, Joel helps us do our planning. This is our setup. I guess my Aussie buddies would say it's not very flash, I guess, but it does serve the purpose. We use a compost extract base, and we add a few micros, things that we're missing. Anyway, and that's, what else? This was a video too. This is inside our extracting tank when we're making our compost extract for our starter fertility base, and I wish I could have had a video, but it's really an interesting process. And we use it as a great base and a great inoculant for soil. And I'll get into that here as soon as I get going. Composting. Tanis did the Elaine thing. We need to compost, so we started. Fairly basic. We just pulled our beaters out of our manure spreader to start with. We had some things around. I brought wood chips in. We started off pretty, and it worked okay. The biggest problem with this system, hauling it in, making it in these rows, was we couldn't get consistency. We had trouble with heating of windrows, and we've improved on that now. I just got this picture. We don't normally spread on the snow. This is the last day, and I just wanted a picture of what that's 2 tons an acre. That's kind of what we're shooting for as an inoculant. This is what we're doing today. We knew we had inconsistency problems, and this composting thing does appear to be working very well. So we decided to make an investment in a worn-out vertical mixer. This thing is gigantic. It's so big nobody wanted it. Guys can't pull it. You need 350 horse to run the thing. So we put it on one of our grain cart tractor, and now we put everything in the mixer, dry ingredients, everything, mix it, and then we unload the full length of the windrow. So every time we layer it, and then we turn it in with the compost turner, and it's even, and nice and consistent. So we see this. This is something we weren't seeing before. We used to see dips and hills and valleys, and now it's consistent from one end to the other. Really nice, even heating, and yeah, my wife's happier because she's kind of a perfectionist, so this works really well. This is something that really I've started paying attention to more all the time. You know, you go out and you dig and we look at soil, but when we pull a root just to see what's actually going on. And this is our fall rye from this year, so same thing. It's a field that we actually spread compost on into standing durum in the summertime ahead of a rain, and we just put seed in the ground, and this is what we're seeing. So Tanis takes from these dreadlocks or whatever you want to call them, and does a dilution, and this is, you know, what we're seeing now. And same, if we had a video, like, it is unbelievable, the activity. Another bacterial feeding nematode. One thing we're still lacking on is the fungal component, but we are definitely seeing things come to life. Cover crops, I'll just skip over quick, but the heat thing, if it's hot, it's bad, and we had hot, so now we keep it covered. Just a couple examples of covers that we do. In our winter annuals is where we can actually get a decent cover crop, so that's kind of our focus. You know, when it gets late, you know, we don't get nearly as much biomass. One of the things that we have been doing that I really do like is been companioning, because it's the struggle with the cover crops. So we seed these clovers with almost everything now that we know we're not going to get a cover seeded on, so we can maintain that live root. This is canola pea, actually from our Milestone farm, and that's what it looks like at harvest. You can see that, like, it's green. And by the time it froze up, it had ground cover. It was gorgeous, probably a ton to the acre. But what I like about this is once the annual crop ends, we've got this guy, you know, pumping back into the ground. There is no dead spot. I mean, I love the overlap of the companions. Like, when we seed our cover crops, there's still that 2-week, 3-week lag, and this sort of fills that gap. The downside, and why I've stopped, I shouldn't say stop doing this, but why I'm looking to do the relay seeding of the covers is it doesn't traditionally produce a lot of biomass. You know, I think there's, you know, in the diversity, we're limited because of herbicide options for us. So anyway, that's just an example of how this is the day of harvest. That's how big our cover crop was already. So I really like that. We don't own cows. Same thing. Came home from Gabe's the first time. I was like, oh, we have to get cows again? I don't even know what to do. And we had a neighbor that was doing like fall grazing, but it was like open the gate, fall graze, turn them out. But interestingly enough, I'd noticed he'd been doing a little bit of, you know, smaller paddocks. And so we had a really good talk. And I loaded him up and we drove back down there. And same thing, Gabe gave us another half a day, unbelievable, you know, and really helped Ryan understand what our goals were and what we're trying to do. And that really changed his management. So I really encourage people, if you can find a neighbor to partner with, works well. So this is just a snapshot out of one of our intensive grazes. This is a picture from one of our fall grazes. He's got a lot of cows, so he'll bring up like a bunch of, say, 600, and then we're not doing intensive by any means in the winter. You know, maybe 600 will have a couple hundred acres, and the snow seems to help limit the intake and the removal. So that's, I guess, where we're at, but at least we're getting them biological distributors out there in the winter. Okay, new things. Not sure at all if it's a great idea or not, but I'm trying it. Because we're CTF and I'm in hills, I'm deathly afraid of tramline erosion. That's probably my number one problem with it right now. And it hasn't happened yet, but I'm just eventually, right? So we're running these things for an Australian company. They brought 2 sets over. They were supposed to bring more, but they're all stuck in customs. And so they got one on our combine and one on a combine in Alberta. The Alberta combine once something piled up, didn't work. But we ran them all season, and we put that combine on our sprayer tracks. It made sure it was always on the sprayer tracks because that's where we had bare ground. And it doesn't take all the chaff. It just takes somehow where the weed seeds are. So it just takes a portion. So you're not getting a huge difference in residue distribution, but it takes sort of the lighter portion, I'm not sure what you call it, and then puts it right on the tracks. I'm sure the cows are gonna love that when they figure it out, but it's just something else, you know, it's a mechanical weed control option, I guess. I'm not sure. The jury's out, but I thought I'd give her a whirl and see what happens. Spelt is awesome. Really, really like it. Huge biomass. I know obviously this particular variety or whatever we're growing is not 4,000 years old, but it out-yielded our durum by that's like a 4-year-old variety by about 25%. So I don't understand that, but it was phenomenal. The residue was great. We're gonna keep working on that one. And the other new thing that we did this year is these squeeze pumps. Doing the biological thing that we do with the compost extract, year one was bad, very bad, as far as trying to put anything through an orifice type distribution system. Yeah, my wife and I had words multiple times about that, and I said there's got to be a better option. So did some digging and found these squeeze pumps, and like literally you can put a cat in a blender and it'll meter that, like no problem. So that's what we've got, and I don't know, am I out of time? I feel like I'm close. But that's the new stuff. This is my what's new is old, or what's old is new slide, because these squeeze pumps are old technology. And these guys just made them all out of stainless steel and bearings, and they're cool. They're from Australia, but they're a really, really good squeeze pump. And, you know, it just, once again, open doors. So we were trying to you know, use screens that were too small to get the stuff out of the water. I want that stuff in the solution, so when we put the stuff in the ground, you know, we've got more of the actual fiber. So anyway, this is really what we're trying to do. Build resilience, right? That's what we're, you know, there's a whole bunch of different ways to get at it, but that's what we're trying to do, because we know we get enough moisture and we get lots of sunlight, but it's just trying to, you know, get that moisture so it's there for when we need it later. You know, and building the soil is the way to do it. I think that's all. Yeah. So I hope that was okay. I went really fast to try to get it all in.
We have time for 2 questions. Right back there.
When we were up this summer and looked at your compost tea and compost extract operation, can you quantify how you're using that and what you're seeing?
Quantifying? Okay. So this is when the crazy talk starts. Remember the bacteria? Oh, sorry. The question was, can you quantify the compost extracts and tea you're using? We had a field day this summer, so we had a few people stop by, and it was great. And I now have a new respect for everyone who does field days. Holy, good for you. Remember the slide with the bacteria? I didn't actually have a slide. I should have had a slide with just bacteria. And literally and don't run out and everybody spend a bunch of money on a compost operation, but it's something to look at. We do a lot of things. We're diverse and we're all these things, but that really flipped the switch. Like we talked at length with Elaine about this, of how to do that. Like, what's the best way to get this? Because teas, I didn't think, like spraying something on top of a plant when it's 40 degrees Celsius and wind is blowing just didn't seem like we're gonna get it to take. So that's when we came up with the idea to do the extract in furrow. And then we add a little bit of molasses, like a sniff or whatever Joel would say, and just to kind of give it a sugar source until the plants start to exude. And it's been, yeah, I mean, the microscope is telling the tale, and we're seeing a huge amount of diversity. Yeah, numbers-wise, I have no idea how to answer that. It wasn't directly related to the fertility stopping, but it's part of the puzzle.
Are you putting like gallons per acre down?
Extract, yeah, extract is like, I think the base is 5.5 gallons of extract. It just kind of, that's how it fits, and there's a few other little micros. We sent some samples. When we started, we just sent some samples down to Southern Cross University in Australia, and they do full backgrounds. They do everything. Like stuff I didn't even know you could test for, nickel and give your total amounts. And that's, Joel looked at that and said, well, I know Elaine says that every soil has everything, but there's some holes in some parent material just because, like somebody said, where the glacier took a dump, things are different in Minton. So he just said, well, a little this and a little that, and we're talking like a pound an acre, very, very little. So that just fits in that. And I basically say, well, we can only, this is how 8 gallons an acre basically fits really well for fills. So we need so many gallons of whatever, potassium sulfate and zinc, whatever it is, and then the 5.5 gallons makes up the difference, and that's what goes in the tank. And Tanis checks the biology at the opener, so we're using like no salt stuff. It's stuff that has absolutely no salt in it. So she checks the biology at the opener after it's been, pumped in the truck, out of the truck, in the drill, through the drill. There's a lot of stuff going on there. So that's a really good place to check it, and lo and behold, it made it. So yeah, I guess as a long answer to your short question. Yeah.
Thank you. That was the second question we were allowed by our head man.
Is that all? I'm holding up lunch, I know, so
Yeah.
I apologize, and thanks for listening.
Thank you very much.